Hi, I'm Tricia Morris at Club Scrap. This is your Flourish Page Kit Assembly Workshop. I am in love with this collection. Do I say that every month? But if I do, I apologize. I can't help it. This is a beautiful set. We've got some great embellishments here, the Cutaparts, the papers, and I've also gone ahead and printed my assembly instructions. Keep in mind, you don't need to print yours if you don't want to. You can just follow along with me if you like. And also, I have the all-important trimmer. And again, if you don't have one of these, make sure you get one because it's an essential tool to your success. If you're a scrapbooker, you need a nice trimmer. And then I'm also using my accordion pocket file. This keeps me organized. I'm going to put everything into one of 4 pockets, each corresponding with a double page spread. If you're new and you don't have this, don't worry about it. Just maintain 4 piles. And we can worry about this later. And if you need help figuring this out, please reach out to us at Club Scrap. We can get you all set up with a kit to make one of your very own out of your favorite paper colors. So initially, I'm going to have you just take the paper out of your kit and we'll sort it in the order in which we will be using it. And I usually like to hold the paper up and off of my work surface while I search for the correct color. And we're going to begin by trimming this wreath print. So it's obvious that this is the wreath. It also has some text on it. So we'll start with one of those, and I'm just going to put that face down on my work surface. Next, I'm looking for a light green. You'll notice it's green on both sides. Be sure you grab the light one and not the dark one. This is the dark green. But next we will trim 1 sheet of dark green. So just make sure you have 1, followed by brown. This is a really nice 100+ pound weight paper. It's so beautiful. At the bottom of your stack, you'll find some Cutaparts. Let's look for the one that says, "To love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides." I just love the font pairing this month. Let's place that face down. Then we'll take the other Cutapart, the one that says, "It is up to you to see the beauty," face down. After that, go ahead and find 2 of the craft planes. That'll be the bases of some of our pages, followed by 1 sheet of this greenery print, and then the remaining piece of light green. If you're ever hunting for papers and can't find one, make sure that you didn't have 2 stuck together. Then the other wreath print, I'm putting face down, a brown, the last dark green, and the last greenery print. Okay, that should be all the papers that you had in your kit. I'm going to flip everything back over to the top. I'll just mention for my newcomers, if I'm going too fast, you do have the option of slowing me down by changing your settings on YouTube. And you can go to like 7.75 speed. It'll sound a little silly, but it really will slow me down until you get up to speed, because rest assured, the more practice you get with this, you'll be waiting for me. That's my guess. I have had a customer tell me they were waiting for me. So it can happen with a little bit of practice. Don't get discouraged if it feels a little fast out of the gates. That will definitely change. Now I'm placing this print in the trimmer with that largest wreath on the right, and this one's a little smaller. And the text should be right side up as well. That's another good way to make sure you've got it. Then I'm going to trim this at 5.5. First timers, again, make sure your paper is up at the top edge here, nice and level. I'll find 5.5. Usually I find the whole number first, and I go to the left 2 vertical columns to find a 1/2 inch. So every vertical column's 1/4 of an inch. So that's 5.5. Again, making sure I'm level at the top. The final and most important step, especially with this awesome trimmer, is that you should push down on that clear bar, and that paper won't move then when the blade comes down. This paper will be placed in pockets 7 and 8. And for these larger pieces, I like to place it into the pocket tilted like this so I can still see the numbers on the left. Besides, those pockets are only 12 inches wide, so it won't fit down in there, or it shouldn't be jammed down there anyway. Next, pick up the remaining piece, and let's place it in the trimmer so that this wreath is like a U here on the left, and we'll cut at 9. Let's place this larger piece in pocket 7 and 8 as well. And then we're going to take this final strip that fell off the end there and cut it at 3 1/4. That's basically cutting it in half into 2 pieces. That also will be used in 7 and 8. Next, we'll take the light green. Let's trim this at 11 1/4, 10 1/2, 9, and 6. Nice easy numbers there. Rotate the 6-inch piece we just made. Leave everything lay where it lands. In fact, that's a great practice to get into, is not moving these pieces, because I'm going to reference pick up the next piece, and if you've moved it, it won't be there. So let's trim this at 8 and 4. And you've got 3 pieces now the same. 2 of them go in 5 and 6, and the other one 7 and 8. The next piece, we're going to do the same cuts. We'll trim horizontally at 8 and 4. You've once again made 3 pieces the same size. One goes in pocket 1 and 2. The next one, 5 and 6. And the final in 3 and 4. I should have done a different order for you, but you get the idea. Oh, then we have some narrow strips here. Let's see, all 3 of them, the wide and the 2 narrow, they all go in pocket 1 and 2. Here we are at the dark green. Again, make sure you just have 1 sheet of paper here. We'll cut at 8 1/2, stabilize each time, and 4 1/4. Now, if you want, you can just take both pieces. We're going to trim them at the same time at 6 1/4. These larger 6 1/4 inch pieces both go in pocket 5 and 6. And then you've got some shorter ones, just a little shorter than the previous 2. Put one of them in pocket 1 and 2, and the other in 7 and 8. Now I have this strip. Be really careful trimming here. It's not your typical average bear. All right, I'm going to trim at 11 3/4, 10, 6 1/2, and 3 1/4. Here you'll have 2 pieces that are the same size. They're a little smaller than the other one. Actually, all 3 of these, the one that's more of a square, it is a square. And these 2 smaller ones, they all go in pocket 7 and 8. And you do have this little piece, and believe it or not, we're going to trim it in half at 1 3/4. Put one of these in pocket 1 and 2. And the other in 3 and 4. Now, I really regret to inform you that this is a scrap. I'm sorry. It's pretty big. Okay, next up is brown. Again, make sure you have 1 sheet. It's going to feel like you have 10 sheets. It's nice and heavy. Let's see. We'll begin at 9 1/4. 9 1/4. Stabilize always. And slide to 6. Rotate so that the 6 by 12 is horizontal. Trim at 8 and 4. Take one of these, goes in pocket 1 and 2. Then the other 2 that remain, 3 and 4. This strip, and again, I was just picking up the next one in the stack. This, if you need to know, it's 3 1/4 by 12. We'll trim on all the numbers to visible by 3. All right, so we're going to start at 9, 6, and 3. It's a great way to divide up a 12-inch strip. All of these go in pocket 5 and 6. Next, this is a 2 3/4 inch strip. We're going to make a bunch of squares and a little scrap. We'll start at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. We just made a series of 4 cute little squares. They all go in pocket 1 and 2. Once again, I am very sorry, but I just didn't find a home for this guy, so he's a scrap. Cutaparts are here already after trimming just 4 sheets of paper. That's pretty cool. I'm going to have you remove the paper from the outside edge of this, and you see that little plus sign there. So everything from the sign and like that little line itself, that should go. And once you do that, you should have a 12-inch piece of paper. I usually cut a little shy on my first trim before I rotate. And take off that edge. And every time I rotate, I can see a little better. I can just see that blade here and down here in this corner. If you look on this particular model, you can see the blade and where it's going to touch the paper. Right now I have a nice 12 by 12 and 4 tiny little pieces I'm going to dispose of. Let's make sure the paper is placed in the trimmer so that the words to love and be loved, that's on the left. And we're basically going to trim between each area, and those cuts typically fall, unless like I've got some mathematical dream in mind, they fall in the nearest 1/4 inch. So your first cut here is at 10 1/4. Those are listed in your instructions, but sometimes you can just do it visually. 8 1/2, 8, 7 1/2, 6 3/4, 3 1/2. Again, I hope you notice that I left all of this stuff pile up. Now we'll just we'll trim into individual rows and then file those and grab the next strip and so on. We'll start here at 10 1/2. Make sure the flourish was on your right. I forgot to mention that. It's kind of obvious though. Then 7 and 3 1/2. All right, this goes in pocket 7 and 8. This one is a circle shape. Obviously, if you happen to have a thin die, the circle itself measures 3 1/4. So you could do that. I was traveling when I worked on my pages and I didn't have my die cutting equipment handy, so I just cut it with scissors and it worked fine. And again, this goes in pocket 5 and 6. This square, pocket 3 and 4. Now the word flourish here is a tag shape. To save time, and again, I was traveling and actually I used a craft knife and cutting mat to remove the corners. Now another way to do this is with your trimmer. I tend to close one eye so I can see to align the blade with the artwork at the appropriate angle and distance away from the actual print, and that worked pretty well. This goes in pocket 3 and 4. Next, I'm going to place the dark green area on my right. We'll cut at 8 3/4 and 6. Again, if you want, you can do the one-eye technique and clip off those corners from the tag shape. This goes in pocket 5 and 6, 7 and 8 for that journaling prompt. One more quick little tag. I just like to get it done, you know, in a timely fashion. 7 and 8. Really, the bulk of the work for all of these layouts is happening right now. After that, it's kind of just a matter of sticking everything down. Okay, this strip now that has the florals or the foliage on it, that's 3 and 4. Then 2 of these really sweet little strips. I love the little edge that Jacqueline put on there. These go in 1 and 2. And then the remaining 2 wider strips, they both go in pocket 5 and 6. We have one last sheet of Cutaparts to trim. So just go ahead and remove that outer perimeter in the same way I showed you before. With that down to a 12 by 12, it's ready for trimming into pieces. So I'm going to start with this really beautiful strip on the right here. And our number here is 10 3/4, 9 1/2, 7 3/4, and 4. Rotate, cut at 6. This guy goes in pocket 3 and 4, and we're going to clip corners again on this cute little tag. It's kind of like a jumbo tag. Pocket 1 and 2 on this one. On the next strip, make sure the banner is on the right. Let's cut at 11, 8 1/4, 5 1/2, 2 3/4. The greenery piece, 1 and 2. This one says Seek, Flourish, Bloom. That's 5 and 6. We have this sweet little journaling prompt with a tag shape. So I'm just gonna, once again, trim my angles, make quick work of it. That goes in pocket 3 and 4. The oval, once again, I just trimmed mine with scissors. Worked great. 5 and 6. but this strip here, the one Enjoy Where You Are, that's 3 and 4. We have some trimming to do on this piece. Put it in the trimmer with the word Believe on the right. We'll cut at 10, 7 and a half, 5, and 2 and a half. Okay, Thrive, 3 and 4. Grow, 3 and 4. Joy, 1 and 2. Love, 3 and 4. Believe, 7 and 8. That was the order they landed, so it kind of makes it easy. This one I trimmed the little shape with a craft knife and cutting mat. You could use scissors as well. It's not going to work to do it with your trimmer. Put that in 1 and 2. This last strip, also 1 and 2. Before we put that trimmer away, let's do a little more filing with these photo mats that came in the kit. And we'll start out with the 3 light green photo mats. So 1, 2, 3. And they can stick together, so just make sure if you're not finding one, it might be stuck. This goes in pocket 1 and 2. Find 1 dark green photo mat. That also goes in pocket 1 and 2. 1 dark green photo mat, pocket 3 and 4. And 2 craft, also pocket 3 and 4. 1 craft, 5 and 6. 1 dark green, 5 and 6. And all 3 of the ivory, 7 and 8. With that complete, I will take my support your accordion pocket file before you remove your trimmer, because that's what's holding it up. And set that trimmer aside. Now I know you have more paper here, but we're not going to trim that. Those will be the base of our layouts. Now I like to start building my pages from the bottom up so that layout number 1 is on top and ready for you to adhere and add your pictures on your own. So that puts us at 7 and 8 for our first pair of pages we're going to dry fit. In other words, add these elements without adhesive. So if I take the remaining stack of paper that I have that I put in order earlier, craft should be next in your stack. So take the whole stack and pull the craft off the top, just 1 sheet, and spread the papers side by side on your work surface. And that should be the base for layout 7 and 8. And if I look at the first ingredient listed for that layout, yes, indeed, it's the craft. So this is correct. Now the other thing you need will be everything out of the pocket labeled 7 and 8 as well. So empty there, right? And we may need access to our goodies and things, so have those handy. I'll show you where they go. And then for each pair of pages, I'll show you the finished adhered layout as well. So this part goes pretty quickly. All the work, you've done it. You've done the work. All right, so what I'm going to do here is start with this one ivory mat horizontally in the middle of this page, right on the edge, on the left edge of the right side, because that's sort of a place marker. Now under that, this half of the wreath print goes, and then there should be 2 smaller green mats that are rectangles. One will go above and one will go below, and that's what will determine the placement of this wreath piece. So I centered all of this, and that's what kind of guided my way. I just want to mention, for those of you who are new, for centering purposes, I use our 3x14 grid ruler. 7 is on this end, then there's my 0, and there's my 7. The other end runs from 0 to 14. So basically, I just placed my ruler vertically along the edge of my layout so that the number 6 is here and here. And that way, when I place my first piece onto this layout, I can center it. And I just find the number that matches. In this case, it's going to be 2 1/8. And then I could place these above and below and then just work my way on down. In fact, I started with this piece, but I didn't put adhesive on the right edge of it, so I could still slide this under and get my placement perfect. I hope that wasn't too much detail for the first, but I like to share these ruler tips, especially for my more experienced crafters, so you can just grow your skills. On the left side, a quick add this guy. He's kind of big in my hand here. And then across the top, that should fit nicely framed within the space. I overlapped a little bit this guy then 2 tilted ivory mats side by side. Be aware of your tangents. Don't let those corners touch each other. Don't let the corners of the photo mats touch the edge of the layout. I like to just tilt, overlap slightly, and put one higher than the other. Always gives me a really nice base. You have one more green square. It will nest perfectly with this tag, so you will need to trim the corners on the mat as well, and I added that over here. The journaling prompt can be tucked behind the photo mat. I just stapled some ribbon to it. And then these 2 pieces cleverly nest perfectly onto the green mats. Now you'll have a series of manila tags. I mounted the word believe onto the tag with the hole on the right. So I could place that here. And on top of the word believe, I used our bookbinding glue in a needle tip applicator to attach the key to the top. There you go. Now, I did get an email from a new member who said that she finds it helpful to sometimes make notes as she's watching the dry fit process. And then that's how she knows where everything goes at the end. I thought that was kind of a fun tip to share. And now let's take a look at these finished pages. So here we have everything adhered exactly as I showed you. And once again, you can see the perfect centering of the green mat, and the pieces above it are all centered and laid out perfectly, again with the help of that grid ruler as a lining device. There's that key with the glue holding it in place. Now this is a 2-part ribbon trick, super easy. You can do it a couple of different ways, but this little piece coming out from the tag right here, I just trimmed like a 1-inch piece of ribbon, threaded it through the hole, and taped the ends on the back. Then I made a secondary bow. Now, if you don't like making bows, don't worry about it. Just tie a little knot in ribbon and glue it on there. Easy peasy. This is the easiest way to do it. Don't try to wrap the top and tie. And no, just 2 pieces. You'll fake anyone. It did the same thing on this one. It's a trick. Makes life better. Okay, now here I used the staple trick. So it's just a short 2-inch piece of ribbon folded in half and stapled. And up here, I used my slot punch trick. Now I used to make little slots with a craft knife and cutting mat. So don't worry if you don't have a slot punch. That certainly can be done, but this is the slot punch. It's designed for badges, and we carry these here at Club Scrap. And you can see, and it's very, very sturdy. It will go through very thick boards, in fact. But that just cuts a nice slot for my, I think it's a 7/8 inch piece of ribbon to go through. And then I just taped the ends on the back. Again, a nice little trick. And that is layout number 7 and 8. Pretty easy. Now I will take the sheet of the craft. This is layout 7, just the craft. Slide it and lay it on top of 8. And then I'm going to slide the next sheet over. And this will be side by side now with the light green, and that is precisely what's shown in the instructions. So I need all the other pieces, and that's going to come out of pocket 5 and 6. So let me just dig everything out of here. I like to distribute the pieces to the layouts from the palm of my hand rather than each piece individually from the tabletop. It just is a little easier. And I believe I've got 2 horizontal dark green mats right here. And next to that, a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 craft. Now below that, there should be a smaller rectangle of green, light green that is, and it will nest with the Seek, Flourish, Bloom. Now, I've got another larger piece here. This is a journaling prompt that I tucked under that photo mat a little bit. Actually, I slid it over. I tucked it here so I could have a little offset. Within this open space here, I added yet another leaf. I used the bookbinding glue just by applying it to the more flat surfaces that would make contact with the paper. So you've got this really nice trio of leaves flowing across the bottom of this layout. I think that's so beautiful. Now there's going to be a larger vertical mat here that will help us determine the positioning of the title. Oh, the places you will grow. Love that. Very neutral for just about anything. and then beneath it. So that makes a nice frame. Now we have the smaller brown squares here, rectangles rather. Those will all be placed within the space. So you take your nicest photo, goes there. Smaller accent photos, complementary photos go here, or you can stretch a vertical photo over those two mats as well. Designer's choice, right? The circle, once trimmed, will be here, and the oval, once trimmed, will be there. These two mats should nest perfectly on top of the dark green as a double nester here. Now, again, if you're new, you'll notice that there are little numbers superimposed onto each photo mat. What that tells you is the size the photo would need to be to fit perfectly into that space with an 1/8 inch border all the way around. So if that might be helpful to you. Otherwise, if you don't happen to have your instructions handy when you're finishing your pages, I use my 8x8 square to finish my layout, so I can hover over the mat and say, oh, that's 4x6. So my photo needs to be 1/4 inch smaller at 3 3/4 by 5 3/4. Now, all those numbers might not be comfortable for you quite yet. Maybe you're a person who's never ever measured a photo or anything to do with your scrapbooking, but give it a try. You'd be surprised at how effective it can be and how much time it'll save you and how much of your photos you'll save by not over trimming or under trimming. This also is helpful in a smaller situation here where you've got a smaller photo mat, 3 1/4 by 3. So your photo would need to be 3 by 2 3/4. You can take this square and put it over the top of your photos to make sure that if you cropped it to those dimensions, it will work right. It won't cut off anything essential is what I'm saying. All right, let's take a look at our finished pages here. This is layout number 6. I did the same looped ribbon trick. It's a 2-piece. Piece number 1 is just looped around with a generous little tuft in there. And the other was the option B, that you don't have to tie a bow. All you do is tie the knot in the ribbon, trim the swallow's tail edges, by folding the ribbon in half and then snipping at an angle, and then just glue it on there. I used my ATG, but ATG works, or adhesive transfer gun, or a glue line works really well for this too. And there's that leaf glued into place as well. A couple more ribbon tricks, very simple here on this one. This is simply folded in half and added, taped to the back. Here, I just did something coming out from both sides. I was just having fun with ribbon that day. What can I say? All of it is optional. Now I'm going to pick up the base of layout 5 and slide this on over. We'll turn back in your instructions to layouts 3 and 4. For positioning, I will keep it just as it was. Text should be right side up, and everything comes out of pocket 3 and 4. Let's actually start our process by placing 3 manila tags from your goodie stash into the lower right corner of this layout. Just 3. There should be one more for a coming layout. Above that, there will be a border strip. Just kind of separate the area. And then above that, I know I'm covering flowers, leaves, greenery. I'm sorry. Can't be helped. And then to the right of this, I'm going to add this frame. Here is this sweet little square that's going to go in the frame, but you'll be surprised and happy to see that it fits this guy. We'll talk more about him in a second. Don't glue that on there quite yet. I got a little tip for you. Moving to the other side, I will take 2 craft photo mats and place them horizontally. So that balances out our vertical over here. The Flourish tag will have ribbon coming out to the right. And then our title strip here, Enjoy Where You Are. Frame that in nicely, kind of mimics this as well. Then here we have this nesting onto the green. And that might be hard to see in the instructions. So that's kudos to you for watching the video. Thank you so much for being here with me. I'm glad I'm not alone. I don't want to be alone doing all this crafting. I picture you in my mind doing this with me. So it is nice. Now I took these little tags, Grow, Love, and Thrive. They just happen by design. They do fit into this space. I want to talk to you about some finishing touches with these pages. Step 1 with working with this frame is to loop the granulated ribbon with that grosgrain edge. Isn't it pretty? Loop that around the frame first. and then trim the ends so they're long enough to be able to go behind the square, okay? Then once the ribbon's in place, add your paper, add it to the paper. I had one where I didn't add the ribbon right away, and that was a bummer. So I had to cut a slot for my ribbon. That would be plan B. If you already attached the frame to the paper, just use your craft knife to cut a slit and then slide the ribbon underneath it. That's what I had to do on the other situation. Here, just short pieces of 2-inch trimmed green ribbon. And what I did here is trimmed all 3 pieces at the same time so they'd all be the same size. Stapled it on there, adorable. On the other side of the layout, I did a couple of things here. Just punch your hole in the Flourish tag and run the ribbon through, secure on the back. This, a single loop, didn't even add the little twist. It doesn't need it. There's a lot going on there, but just a touch of that bronze ribbon adds so much. And finally, this is one of my favorite little embellishments in the kit. And maybe it's a little old-fashioned, but I thought it was so cool. She's looking toward the page, not away from it. That's why I placed it on the left here. And this piece fits inside the bronze setting. So when it arrives, it'll be 2 separate pieces. I used a generous amount of bookbinding glue on the perimeter of the cameo and placed it on there and set it aside to dry while I was doing the trimming. So I always like to top smaller things like this with a little bit of wax cord, black thread, something you may have on hand. This is not included in the kit, but it definitely just draws the eye to that really cool embellishment. I glued it onto the layout with bookbinding glue. So now I will slide this brown base to the right, and then green comes over and sits on top. And here we now have, I like to have the bricks going sideways, of course. The base for layouts 1 and 2, so all I need to do is empty the pocket. Again, I like to hand everything out from the hand, not the tabletop. I'm going to start out with my 4 brown squares. Now, the strategy here is I trim them to 2 3/4 inches square so they could sit all the way across a page with equal spacing between them in a film strip style. So that size allows me to do that. If they were 3-inch squares, that would not fit. Beneath that, I'll take the wider of the 2 of the set of green strips here, and then I can nest it with this page title. Beneath that, 2 vertical light green mats. And then this piece should have a nesting guy. Okay, so the smaller light green should perfectly nest with this. And then you have the green square, the woodcut frame, so beautiful, and the ribbon will be sandwiched in between there. I'll show you on the finished layout again. Really works so well. Then I'm going to do this green strip here, nesting with the print, so that adds a nice little belt of color across the page. Now, what determines the distance between these? I think we're going to go with this dark green mat here, so it's got to spread out a little further. On top of that goes the tag, and you'll want to clip the corners of the mat as well. Then you have the light green nested with a smaller brown, and you have a vertical dark green. Your final manila tag goes here with the joy right on top, and this is going to sit right here, kind of overlapping the photo mat a little bit. Very sweet. Finishing touches from the final pages here, just adhesive, right? That's all there is to it. And then here we have the slit that I had to add and thread my ribbon through this around to the back of the green. I think it just adds so much. If you don't feel like doing it, it's not required, obviously, but I really love the addition of the ribbon. And, you know, what do you put in there? I don't know. Put a little tiny picture of taking a view at a distance, or a sunset, or something cute and little. Maybe a little punch will help you. Otherwise, the opening is a little over 1 inch, so you could do a 1x1 of something, anything, maybe even a little flower embellishment or something. Very sweet. Also, I did attach this with some foam adhesive, and then notice I left this area free of the foam so I can slide my picture right under there. Just think ahead a little bit. Again, I encourage you to actually glue everything down, adhere it, be done with it, have it ready to go. I do have customers, members who don't. They're afraid that they're going to have too many vertical pictures, not enough vertical pictures. I try to balance it out. And when you're adapting your pages, your finished pages with your photos, like for example, if you had only horizontal pictures, you would just put 2 horizontal pictures that are a little bit cropped into that space. That's all there's to it. So here we have a hole punched here, threaded with the ribbon, brought to the back, stapled the green ribbon here, and then added the key, this time with a little wax linen on top of that key. Doesn't it just set that off so sweetly? I love it. Okay, done talking for the evening. All right, it's dark outside. I'm the only one left here, and I hope you enjoyed spending this time with me. Again, I do imagine you completing your layouts with me every month. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the video and learn along with me, grow with me in your skill. If you like this Flourish kit, make sure you pick up the card kit. We are going to make a dozen cards and 2 gift purses with the Flourish kit this month. Aren't they fabulous? So I am going to film that as well. That'll be a whole video workshop. You can follow along with me there and make those cards with the Flourish card kit. So don't miss out on that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out our latest new videos. I'm always up to something. So I'll see you very soon in another Club Scrap workshop. Thanks for joining me.